My humble pranams at Bhagawan's lotus feet, respected elders, devotees, practitioners of the Vedic path, and our participants in the Vedic conference. Sai Ram to one and all. Whenever we think of the Vedas, many of us, educated, so-called educated, we feel reverence. But with reverence, we also feel distance. The reason for this distance could be belief, basically. And what are our beliefs? Some of us believe that it is all written in Sanskrit, it is esoteric, it's beyond us. Some of us believe it is meant for only some people. Some of us believe that only what is practical is required. We do not need to look. This is all heritage. Let us keep it there. These are the general beliefs that surround the so-called modern way of thinking. But what Swami tells us is that Vedas are not the relic of a past. Vedas are living truth. They are the waters from which humanity must drink and replenish themselves and their culture, their living, their society. Swami, in fact, when he describes the avataric mission on why Bhagawan comes down to earth, why the avatar comes, one of the reasons which is oft quoted by Swami himself is Veda Poshana. To establish Vedas, Bhagawan has descended. How does he do it? Number one, he embedded it in our everyday lives. Vedas are chanted every day in the Mandir. Devotees are a part of it. Vedas are taught in all his educational institutions, and they have to learn it. In every auspicious function that is done, it begins with the Vedas. In the whole of India and the world, Bal Vikas teaches again the Vedas. Swami encouraged the learning and the chanting of the Vedas. But Swami also took every instance to talk about it. Whether it was the Atirudra Mahayagnams, whether it was Dashara, whether it was the numerous discourses that Swami gave. Even in the Vahinis, Swami wrote about the Vedas. So let us use the Vedic style now, the Prashna and the Uttara, and look at what a novice like me would ask and what would the Veda Pushta himself say. Question 1. What is the importance of the Vedas? Why should we learn it? Why should we chant it? Swami has said in his discourses numerous times that the Veda is very, very holistic in its approach. From the very material, mundane to the most spiritual, and as Madam just explained, the transcendental truths are in the Vedas. There is no realm of human experience and beyond human experience which is not embedded in the Veda. Why should such a holistic view be important at all? When we believe in the holistic view, Swami says, it brings out the broadest perspective of ourself. And that is where human values get born. For example, oneness is the principle of the Vedas. When, yesterday when Madam was speaking, she was talking about the quantum lens. And if you use the quantum lens, you see everything as vibration. And there is no distinction between material, non-material, sentient. Any kind of being is covered in that. That's oneness. If you can experience or understand, even in a limited sense, the oneness, wouldn't it create samatva? wouldn't it also foster tyaga, sacrifice? Because sacrifice here is giving yourself to yourself. There is no sacrifice. Actually, sacrifice is a misnomer over there. It is giving oneself. So the bed of human values is in the Vedas. And when Vedas are practiced, Swami says, peace and harmony will result. One of the beautiful things about the Indian culture is it divinizes everything. There is no element of life or natural living which is not touched by divinity. And similarly, when we spiritualize everything that is natural, the spiritual becomes natural. And here lies the gift of what our Vedas and our culture gives humanity. Question 2. If it is so important, why did it decline? And Swami says, though there are a lot of physical and historical and so many other external reasons why the Vedas declined, and you can read n number of expositions on that. But Swami concentrated in most of his discourses on the internal reasons of the decline. And one thing which Swami said quite often was neglect, indifference. Indifference of the Bharatiyas over centuries led to the decline of the Vedas. I mean, to make my point, I'll just read what Bhagawan exactly said. He said, each of the Vedas have several shakhas or branches, and the upashakhas, which means sub-branches. Out of the 20 branches and 21 branches of the Rig Veda, only 3 have survived today. Likewise, out of the 96 branches of the Yajur Veda, only 2 have survived the ravages of time. Sama Veda, which had 1,000 branches, retains only 3 branches. If so much of spiritual treasure is contained in the few branches of Vedas that have survived, how much greater would have been the spiritual heritage of the Bharatiyas if the Vedas had survived in their entirety. It is because of the neglect of the Vedas that the spiritual and scientific knowledge of the Bharatiyas experience steady decline. As a consequence, and this is the dangerous part, they developed a narrow outlook and the broadness of vision suffered. Another painful reason that Bhagawan highlights for the decline of the Vedas is commercialization. It's like having a gift and not knowing its value and using it for a purpose which is way beneath it. So when the chanting was divorced from character, when the scholarship becomes divorced from practice, then the reverence is lost. And when reverence is lost, then the decline is inevitable. One more thing which people often talk about for the cause of decline, and which Swami also has referred in his discourses, is about why when you don't have self-identity in your own culture, you begin to ape other cultures. So we always hear of how we ape the West. And Swami gave a beautiful story to make the point. He said, when the hotel owner has a headache, he goes to the pharmacist or the chemist and takes a tablet. But when the chemist has a headache, he comes to the hotel to drink coffee. Meaning to say, the East, he says, looked at the West for its own definition of mental peace through a material means, while the West looked to the East, again, for mental peace. Another thing which we sometimes think, as I said, as novices or as those who are not exposed to the greatness of Veda is to believe that it is meant for a select few. Not just in terms of intellectual thing, but okay, Brahmins are meant to chant. Swami said that Brahminhood is not birth-based, it is conduct-based. When conduct of discrimination, viveka, of reverence, and the right conduct is, practiced, only then you get the arahata, to be a Brahmin. Now comes the next question, which we all know. Why did Swami, what were the reasons when Swami universalized the Vedas, allowed women to chant Vedas, said every nation is welcome to chant the Vedas. It doesn't belong only to India, but to the entire world. And Swami has spoken about this too in his discourses. While talking about why women should be permitted to chant, Swami said, in the realm of jnana, there is no discrimination. In a physical sense, yes, there are limitations or there are variations in men and women, but not in jnanam. And Swami quoted scriptural history. He said, don't we have the instances of Parameshwara himself teaching Parvati? Don't we have luminaries like Gargi and Maitreyi who not only mastered these branches of knowledge, but also would debate intellectually also? He also, Swami speaks of Sulabha Yogini, so many instances where Vedas were practiced. Vedic life also was lived by both men and women. Now coming to the fact of why is it a global or universal principle, Swami says that take something like gravitational force, he said. These are all Swami's examples, not mine. Believe me, it's 100% plagiarism here. So when Swami was talking about the gravitational force, he said, Newton discovered it. It existed much before Newton discovered it. Hence, that knowledge belongs to everyone. Similarly, the Vedas are not by humankind. It's not invented by human beings. The sages only received the divine vision, and therefore it pre-existed, as the speaker before me also emphasized. Even much before creation, the Vedas existed. Hence, it belongs to the whole of humanity. There cannot be a distinction in that. Now comes the most difficult question. How does one revive this culture? How does one relive the Vedic tradition? This also, Swami is so kind. There is nothing which he has not left for us. He's peeled the banana, mashed it, and kept it in front of us so that we may partake of it. So in this case, Swami says, the first thing we must have is faith. Because with faith comes the real, in form of a deservance to it. I would again tell you an incident which happened in order to support what I'm saying. So it once happened, this was during the Dashara Yagnam, and the Vedas were being chanted, and Swami would ask the boys to chant, as you all know. He would give them the, kashaya dress and then ask them to chant. And Swami would be very proud, like a proud father, feeling very happy when the boys are chanting it. And as is with Swami, he would, after the thing, he would go behind in the Purnachandra thing. The Vedam boys would follow. And then Swami looked at all the guests and he was answering questions. And then he said, then one of the guests said, Swami, your boys have chanted the Vedas so well. And Swami beams. And then he says, yes, but they are not only Veda chanters, they are students also. They study secular knowledge and they also learn this. Swami was showing off like a proud parent. And then this gentleman who was the guest, he asked, Swami, do they know the meaning of the Vedas? And now came the point of terror. The boys knew the meaning of the Vedas in a general sense, but if you quiz them about it, they may probably not pass. So they immediately, what do we do when we are in a tight situation? Om Shri Sai Ram. So they started praying, Bhagawan, please, please, Swami, you save us, don't embarrass us, and don't let us let you down, both. And then Swami, very sweetly, he said, oh yeah, they know the essence of the Vedas. And then Swami said, what is the essence? If you chant with your heart and with bhakti, with reverence, you don't need to know. The benefits in terms of peace and prosperity will come. When he added, it's a beautiful example. So I don't know whether he was saving them or he was revealing to us, but whichever way it was. Swami said, when a mother takes a little child and sings a lullaby, which could be a classical song, whatever, she's singing it. Does the child understand the words? Does the baby understand the words? No. Does the baby even understand which raga, which tala, what it is? Nothing. But the baby knows it is the song of love. It can feel the love. And baby knows it should surrender. This was Swami's example of it. And then Swami said, so put your heart and soul and chant. It will open up because the knowledge is within you too. So this is a beautiful way. Another story which Swami said, again, about faith. India's culture, Swami said, always lives in the villages because there are a whole lot of people who still follow that old tradition of life with no complications. They are, let's hope, untouched by AI, mobile phones, social media, and all other things. Now, it so happened that there was this very rustic woman in Pahalgam. This was during the Shirdi avatar. And she used to keep 3 pots in her house, drawn from 3 different wells in the village. That means every morning she would go to each well and draw 1 pot of water, which she called Ganga, Yamuna, and Saraswati. And she would keep it and worship them at home. And any guest comes, she would mix the 3 waters and say it's Triveni Sangamam and give them. The whole village indulged her, and some of them mocked at her, some of them laughed at her. And this was, they'd say, oh, you're going to give us Triveni Sangamam? Okay, that kind of thing. And some of them tried to logically tell her that how can the 3 villages in your 3 wells in your village be connected to some rivers which are so far away. Now one day it so happened that her husband decided to go on a Tirtha Yatra to Kashi. Now those days, if you went that far, it was quite a perilous journey, and so the whole village literally gives you a send-off. And so happened that the mother, that is the mother-in-law of our heroine here, she gave her son her gold ring with a stone and told him, this is the mother's talisman, you wear it, you will be safe. So the young man wore the ring and went on his pilgrimage. Unfortunately for him, in Manikarnika Ghat, when he was taking his dip, the ring slipped. Obviously, he couldn't find the ring in the water. He came back home and told his mother, Mother Ganges took my ring. Now his wife heard that. She was extremely offended. She said, why does Mother Ganges need your ring? And will she ever deprive a poor mother of her few worldly possessions? You are very wrong. It is impossible that Mother Ganges would take your ring. Maybe she dropped it. You dropped it, sorry, and she never took it. And so saying, indignantly, she marched off to her Ganga pot, put her hand and searched for the ring. And lo and behold, she found the ring. This is a story which Swami himself told. And then Swami added that then the mother, the husband and the wife, they came to see me in Dwarakamai, he said. He was idealizing the faith, which is so important. Now what other than faith, okay? Faith is important. But you see, if we worship something, we have to worship with our mind, heart, and our hands. These are what given by God to us. Don't we need to use all 3 of them in whatever we do? So Swami says, spend some time in understanding to whatever extent you can. But live a God-centric life. Have the attitude of Tyaga and live exemplary lives. Only when all this comes together, then the Vedic tradition stays alive. Now, just before I finish, I want to read another section of what Swami said. This, do you know that the entire education mission of Bhagawan started with a Veda Pathshala? This was not a random event. And what Swami said in that discourse is really something to ruminate about. I will just read that out for you. Swami says, and I quote, "Faith can grow only on the soil of dharma with the fertile subsoil of Vedas. My task is to open your eyes to the glory of the Vedas and to convince you that Vedic injunctions, when put into practice, will yield the results promised. My task is to make you aware of your errors and the loss you are incurring, not only you who are here just now, but all the people of India and even the world. This Pathshala will grow into a university, establishing branches wherever there are other types of universities now. It will afford cool green shade for all. My prema towards the Veda is equaled only by my prema towards humanity. My mission, remember, is fourfold: Veda Poshana, Vidvat Poshana, Dharma Rakshana, Bhakta Rakshana. Spreading my grace, my power along these four directions, I establish myself in the center." 23rd November 1962. Bhagawan reminds us that the Vedas are the soul of Bharat and the hope of humanity. And their universalization is not about expanding in numbers. It is about expanding our consciousness. When lived with awareness, discrimination, and love, the Vedas will naturally radiate peace across homes, society, and nation. Jai Sai Ram.